After using a Fitbit Charge 5, an objectively excellent fitness tracker for a couple months, I decided that it wasn't serving me any purpose, and I went back to my trusty Casio. In this video, I'm going to be controversially arguing why I think fitness trackers might not even be necessary, and I'll bring up some relevant scientific literature along the way. Now, to give a bit of context, I am a pretty casual user. I cycle around everywhere I go for the odd run, do a couple workouts a week, a bit of dancing, but I'm not a serious athlete who's always looking at my quantitative performance. The first question we need to ask is, do fitness trackers actually make you do more? Now, when I first got my Fitbit Charge 5, after I'd get to a certain level of activity, I'd get buzzing and rewards and saying, well done, you reached your active minutes target and whatnot. And to start with, it was a nice little motivation, little dopaminergic incentive. But, after a few weeks, I found I wasn't caring as much, and I ended up not really aiming for those targets, but, sometimes my watch would buzz when I had the relevant number of steps and sometimes not. Sometimes I'd even forget to put the watch back on after a shower or something, and then I'd go for a walk and then it'd be like, oh no, I've wasted my steps and they won't count towards my target. And it just ends up being a bit pointless. Now, this question has actually been the study of scientific investigation, and hot off the press is a super meta-analysis by Ty Ferguson et al. This study looked at 39 different meta-analyses. So it did a meta-analysis of meta-analyses, and 17 of the 39 studies they looked at were looking at physiological outcomes from using a fitness tracker for a period of time. Across tens of thousands of participants of all age groups, they found that fitness tracker users had on average 1,800 more steps walked and 1 kilo lower body weight. Though it is worth noting that 4 of the 39 meta-analyses they looked at, which were focused more on quality of life, did not find any statistical differences. Another recent study out of Germany was looking at the famous 10,000 steps goal, a goal that is pretty arbitrary, by the way. They only had 150 participants in their study, but they found that using a fitness tracker for 6 weeks did not help people reach that 10,000 step goal. On the other hand, there is some evidence that it can help certain subsets of society. Now, there was one study looking at children who were suffering from leukemia, unfortunately, and they were trying to use the fitness trackers as a means to motivate the children to do more activity. And after using the trackers for 2 weeks, they found that it did improve the number of steps that the children were doing. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. One of the issues I see that a lot of these studies have quite a short duration, right? 2 weeks, 6 weeks. And as I was commenting, what my experience with the Fitbit was there was a novelty effect. There is this period of time where you're using it and it's fresh and exciting and you're more motivated by it. But I think that's something that's a fleeting motivation that's going to go down over time. And I couldn't seem to find many that look at the long-term effects, which is understandable because it's a pretty hard study to do. A study from Stiglbauer and colleagues was looking at the perceived health benefits of using fitness trackers, and they did find that using fitness trackers increased people's perceived health. Now, I think this kind of makes sense because it's reminding you of the activity you're doing. It's logging it instead of it just being an unknown figure. But in the same way, maybe if I wrote down all the vegetables, I think I have a better diet, unless I didn't eat any vegetables at all. Okay, it's not the best example, but you get the idea, it's this effect of noting down what you are already doing, and for that, you're perceiving that you're doing more. Now, of course, it does seem with that huge meta-analysis that this perception is not just a complete lie. There is a small, statistical effect, but, 1,800 steps, we're talking 15 minutes, and 1 kilo of body weight, I don't think is really significant at all. So it does seem that the overall effect could be weak, and one thing worth noting is, those studies are looking at all participants across all ages, but I think personally, if you're already somewhat active, if you're not just sitting down all day and doing zero, then I feel like that benefit might be less. Moving on, one of the main reasons I'd bought the Fitbit was to keep an eye on my sleep. As we know, sleep is super important. Now, it was neat to have all the numbers, but I started to realize after a while, I was often just waking up and looking at the score and being like, a sleep score of 80. A sleep score of 60. And I didn't really do anything with that information. I mean, it's useful to know, but ultimately I was finding I can sort of pay attention to my body and how I feel when I've woken up. You kind of know when you've slept well, right? I'll admit I might be cherry picking a little bit, but I did come across one study that was trying to compare self-reported sleep data to objectively measured sleep data, albeit only looking at sleep duration rather than quality. They were trying to predict the prevalence of burnout in people, which is when people are very stressed and maybe not sleeping well. And they found that self-reported sleep quality was a better indicator of that than objectively measured sleep duration. So there you have it. It could be better just to pay attention to your body. Though it is worth noting, of course, like I said, it would be nice to see a study that looked at sleep quality because devices like the Fitbit Charge 5 are capable of measuring this. A little side topic that I came across, it was mentioned by Andrew Huberman, who's a researcher and podcaster, and he was talking about this phenomenon called orthosomnia. And this is apparently when people get very anxious about their fitness metrics that they're measuring all the time, and as a result, they have trouble getting to sleep as a result of being anxious about wanting to have a good sleep score. This is obviously a very extreme case. I don't think everyone who buys a fitness tracker is going to suffer from this, but it is an example of what could happen if you're paying too much attention to metrics and not just chilling out and just being in your body. But yeah, ultimately I ended up paying less and less attention to my sleep score. Obviously, I knew that when I went out drinking and slept for 4 hours, I am not going to have a good sleep score, but I kind of know that anyway. I think it's the same thing as the readiness indicator, which I reviewed in the Fitbit Premium review. I think it's the case where you're kind of better off paying attention to your body and noting how you feel rather than relying on numbers on these phones. Although I do admit these systems and analytics are going to get more and more sophisticated as time goes on, but I think they're still not quite at a super level where it knows us better than we know ourselves. So I have made the case against fitness trackers, and maybe I want to spend a little bit of time, on the opposite side of the debate so I'm not too imbalanced. I came across an interesting story where a Fitbit had been used to arrest a criminal. Yes, that's right, you did not hear me incorrectly. Long story short, an American man was arrested for murder based on Fitbit data, which showed that they had a sharp increase in heart rate and decline shortly near the time of murder that was estimated. Now, unfortunately, the guy was pretty old and died in police custody, so we didn't get to see someone bring up Fitbit data in the court of law. I guess it's the opposite of a use case, because if you want to go and commit crimes, maybe you should take your Fitbit off. But I thought it was kind of neat. On a more serious note, obviously, I can appreciate the fact that some people really want to have quantitative metrics based on their exercise. For example, if you're running a lot and you want to improve your mile time, if you're training for a race and you want to see how well you're doing, if you have a specific goal for a military exercise that you need to run in a certain amount of time, or simply just watching your progress. If you work hard at your craft, your cycling, your running, whatever, you're going to see your metrics improve, and I think that's quite a motivator. And yes, it is nice to have these things, but sometimes I feel like you can get too caught up in them and too obsessed. And I came across a funny meme which I'll show you here. And just to play devil's advocate again, instead of having your watch measure your distance, maybe you can just map out a route and have that distance, known. Or perhaps just enjoy your runs and cycles without worrying how fast you're going. Anyway, that is everything I wanted to talk about. I hope this has been an interesting video, and do let me know where you sit on this debate and whether you think I'm completely wrong and I should delete the video or something. I'd be very interested here, and I'd love to see some engaging discussion. You can check out some other related videos. There's a review on the Fitbit Charge 5 and Fitbit Premium, and you can also check out my channel for other random reviews and various things. Let me know what you think of this more opinion piece type content, because I'm usually doing more reviews, but it's always good to branch out, so that'd be great. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.